Been able to do anything lately.
I'm running on empty, Brad.
Yeah, me too. All right, we got music now.
I would bring my tripod, but this old style, it's got a screw in the middle. Yeah, you screw it up on the camera. It doesn't have this type of thing.
No, that's the same thing. It goes. Oh no, you're right. You need this thing.
Yeah.
Well, there's this with the screw. This goes into a.
Yeah. So my old SLR, whatever they call it, has a screw at the bottom, and I just
Yeah.
screw that into it. And I hadn't seen one like this.
Yeah,
So that's the modern type.
So the screw is this thing.
Uh-huh.
So if you got a different one, you can screw that in. And it's
Okay.
easy in and out. Yeah.
Okay. I've never seen a camera that small.
Yeah,
So all the new stuff is so.
Yeah, this one's not. They can't hardly do it.
Maybe we need to upgrade them.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it depends how long it is.
Yeah. So this is just for Zoom, it's not for. Do you still record it and put it out on the?
Yeah, I record it from Zoom.
That's not from here.
It is.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not great, but you'd have to do something like your DSLR to get a better audio. So.
This happens because I have the volume up.
The volume, not on
Yes.
here. The volume's not up. Somewhere else.
This is it.
Yeah, but it was almost all the way down.
Yeah, I turn it off when you do that.
Oh, I see.
just
Okay.
wanted to make
That's
sure
good. The
that
last
it's
2 weeks we haven't been able to have this work, so I'm glad you're here. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. It's just like, it's an old building and they should redo all this.
Yeah.
The sound and stuff. So the guys, they installed it, they told me you cannot turn off the mic when you have a volume all the way up because of whatever they did. So use the mute button as much as you can.
All right. Sounds good. We have audio today, Lisa.
How do we have audio?
This girl knows how things work. She had it set up this morning. The other people didn't have it set up.
Do we know what she did?
No, this part I know. There's something else in the back. And I think it has to do with that microphone too. Yeah. She said it's old and special. It's on mute. It's on mute.
Testing.
You know who our speaker is today?
Bryan McMillan, Pen and Dagger.
I never saw a. If I did, yeah. Yeah, down in tech, and then I had one that's up close. And I got
Matthew?
Yep. Can you hear us, Matthew?
Where's Earl?
Morning.
Hi there.
Mark. There he is.
Hello.
You hear us, Matthew?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, great.
Hey, Chris. I came this close to just saying, I'll pay you for the ticket. Each time it's not coming, and I don't know what it was. You just need to suck it up, get dressed, and go. And then once I got over there, we danced to the beat stop.
Did you really?
I
Well, see,
was,
you know, we
danced
just,
so much, my hips were sore.
we just got back from Key West.
I know, I was
that
shocked
night
when I saw
before.
y'all there.
And Kim said, oh, we're going to Epicureans. I said, which one is this? She said, the formal. I said, shit, I gotta put a tuxedo.
Yeah.
And I said, well, maybe we'll get lucky and it's the wrong night. We'll pull up.
I know.
It won't be by
Well,
then.
I was really hoping that they would,
Yeah, no, the Key West, no, we flew.
I was hoping they would cancel it, because it was kind of
Yeah.
icy out, but they did.
It was,
But anyway, I had a good time.
where was that? Key West was great.
Greensboro Country Club, the Epicurean, they had
oh,
their
yeah.
society thing, had their formal
I mean, we sat
thing
by the
last
beach one
Saturday
whole
night.
day.
I told him, I said, I really didn't want to go, but
That's why they want to stay. It's like
I had
76.
committed to go, and then when it was so cold, it was cold on Saturday, I wanted to do some staying on
But
Saturday night.
listen,
And I
I was
forced
at
myself to
76, I
go.
wasn't here.
I got over there, I knew that band was gonna be
Big
good.
difference.
Well, I danced for 3
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
You look good.
And I was
doing it,
the only, I think I was the only single
too.
woman.
That's not true. A lot
single
of women
person
were,
there.
were dancing without because guys were dancing.
Yeah, the
'Cause-
guys
'cause
weren't
Kim
dancing.
was out dancing
But it's
all the time. I
funny
didn't
because
dance.
this
So
man
slow
was
dances.
standing over by the bar. He'd been standing over there by the bar by himself. He was an older man. And when that song New York came on, I thought, well, I don't have anybody to dance with. I walked over there. I said, do you want to dance? Well, he kept kind of giggling the whole time. And I thought, okay, what's funny? But then I realized he was married. And
Well,
after that dance, his wife did not leave his side. It was so funny.
well, a lesson learned
And she
then.
kept looking at me when they were out on the dance floor, and I wanted to walk up and say, darling, I don't want your husband. I just asked him to dance. It was so funny.
Yeah, let's dance amongst us girls,
I'm
right?
just like, oh my God.
The band was good though, especially the girls. The girls came out and sang.
That would be great to have something like that at our fundraiser. Well, not David Lynn. Of course, they would be more expensive.
I was gonna say, let's walk for a run.
I know.
What band was it?
Liquid Pleasure.
Yeah.
They're all
The one
African
girl-
American, and then the guys come out at first, and then after like the first set, the girls came out.
Well, this
And
one,
I'm talking about body con.
Look out.
dresses.
I said, there's gotta be some duct tape somewhere. That's
Now tell them what Chip might say.
I just kind of laughed about it. I said, but you know what?
Nice boots, baby.
And I don't mean to sound discriminating, but or racist, but black women, whatever they put on, they rock it and they feel good in it.
That's true.
Even if they shouldn't be wearing it.
Exactly, that's what I'm talking
No,
about.
they shouldn't
No,
wear
we're like, oh, I can't wear that. It's too tight. My roll's showing. I've got a girl in my office who works in our tax department. Honestly, there have been days that I wanted to say, darling, you probably don't need to be wearing that. But I mean,
Not
she,
you. You don't say.
no,
Morning, Buster.
I don't say anything.
she wears just tight.
It's an interesting conversation we're here.
Big and got rolls. She just wears that stuff, whatever she puts on.
No body shaming there.
No.
Is that Matthew talking?
Yeah, it sure is.
Okay.
There's Gigi.
Dark and Mama.
Been doing any
At
good
the Breckenridge
fishing?
on Saturday, and I didn't want to take the risk.
Gigi danced.
I know. I
She,
told
John, she had like 5-inch heels on. She told me Sunday her feet hurt.
Good morning, Gigi.
Saturday night. Did you keep your feet elevated on Sunday? My hips were hurt when I got out of bed on Sunday. I'm like, oh my God, this is not good. I told my friend, I said, look at Gigi out there. I said, she had hip surgery last year, and she danced and it was like stilettos. Although she
When we went to Possibilities, it wasn't too crowded.
No, that would have been good.
Except for the stars.
That would have been good.
So
We had-
last night was good.
Yeah, we had a lot of people there.
I wanted to come, but I'm having a dry week.
Hey,
That's an
Grant.
awfully tough place for me to go.
I know.
Well, there were
They have a lot of
16
liquor.
people at the 16 people. No, 17 including me, so
That's good. That's good.
nice turnout.
It's a nice place. It is a
Well,
nice
I
place.
had never been there. I didn't realize how nice it was. I was skeptical when I pulled in because of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
My dad's office used to be 2 blocks down. You
Okay.
with Rob, truck
Yeah.
getting stolen, and all the fuel from sucking out of your tank at the same time.
Well, at least they do it quick.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, no, it's a nice place.
It
They
is.
make a nice. That's where our tour, our 12 bars tour this year, that's where we started.
How was it? Well, we should have caught up with you down there, but I don't know. We had.
You
I
had,
had plenty
you
of
had
drink.
your, I think, yeah, I think
Something
you
else
had
going on.
your kids here.
Yeah, we ended up at Gray's Tavern. So.
All right.
Good one.
We were late.
Where'd y'all go?
We went to,
Got cold, which is right.
I good.
You fix it. Sit down.
Yeah.
It's right.
So I went to Graham and Loud, but it was that. It was, yeah, it was over. At one time, it was long, but so that's
Hey, Gail. How are you? All right. First Saturday night.
He's there.
If not Allison on the rats. She was tired. She slept. sinuses. That's it. But I thought since I was going to take care of her, I'll test positive. Which is the I come up at. Well, the one difference you can tell. Last
He's got a little presentation. He probably makes
Hey Buster, can you hear us today? Awesome. Can you say something? I think we got audio today.
You want me to sing?
I want you to sing and dance.
I can
Let
sing
me
and
turn it up.
dance.
I don't hear you.
Yes, I can.
Hey,
That
hey
was,
guys, can you hear everybody?
yeah.
I can hear y'all.
Okay, good, super.
I'm getting ready to mute. Got to take the kids to school.
All right. Can you try again, Buster?
Yeah. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Good morning.
Hey, Lisa.
Morning.
How's Tom doing? Are you
I'm-
feeling better?
Yeah, I'm almost 100%. Luckily, what I had was pretty minor. It was sort of like a really, really bad cold for about 3 days. But now I have to sit through this quarantine, and
That's the best part, not having to go anywhere.
I guess.
I agree.
I kind of enjoyed it, actually. It took that. I had COVID before the vaccines, like a year ago, I guess in December,
Yeah,
and I had very mild symptoms. But
Yeah,
with
this-
this,
yeah. I had
like my energy level was just bottomed out for about
That-
3 weeks.
Yep, that's exactly what I had. I had I'm really tired for about 2.5 days. I had a fever for about not quite 24 hours, and now I'm back to normal, but I can't go anywhere. And the other thing is people require a negative test sometimes, before you can travel and before you can do all this stuff. The problem is, and I talked to the nurses at the COVID clinic at Cone about this a couple of days ago. Once you've had it, you will test positive probably for 2 or 3 months.
Oh, wow.
And so, all of a sudden now you're sort of restricted. If people require a negative test, you're sort of restricted. So
I'm not sure the quarantine time's long enough, but I'd tell my people to stay at home longer than 5 days after.
well, and she told me that too. She said, you know, the CDC says 5 days, but what they're telling everybody is 10 days. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stay here for 10 days. And
Well, it's so highly contagious.
yep,
Like
exactly.
every person in my office that has a child has had they've had it. Their families had, you know, their
Yep,
mom,
yep.
dad, other kids, the whole
Yep.
family. So it's good to see Frank on here this morning, and Debbie and Buster.
Hey, Frank.
How's little Fox? Did he make a snowman?
Yes, we did. We did everything. He went sledding. He's a real trooper. We drug him over to Lindley Park for the sledding, and he had a big time. He's pretty durable.
That's great. That's great.
Buster talking to himself again.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I had to ask him about his grandson.
Buster, don't hurt yourself.
Yeah.
We're getting too damn old for all that sledding, Buster.
Oh my gosh. My wife is the sledder. She's like a 8-year-old. Just, when are we going over there? When are we going over there? So, and just would do it all day if it's pretty funny. Did you stay up and watch the game, Tom?
No.
I made it to about halfway through the second half, and they got a good team. I mean, just like Carolina's got a good team if they'll play, but
everything is a little disappointing just because they have some talent, but they're just I don't know, they just come out being mediocre all the time. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh well, Carolina's got a couple of bright spots. I mean, I think Baycott is he's really good in this transfer. Manic, the white kid with the big beard.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, he is so good. He can drill the three, but he's really tall, and but our two guards leave a lot to be desired.
Yeah, it's going to be the season's got a month to go, so and State can't get out of the cellar. It's just mediocre. It's pretty disappointing to watch. So
I mean, you look at Carol. I think I saw in the AP poll there's only one ACC team in the top 25.
Oh yeah, Duke. They're the only one. Yeah, the ACC. When we were growing up, you remember this. The ACC was the top of the heap.
Absolutely.
And now they're near the bottom.
Yeah.
I mean, I just called up the standings here. Over half of the conference is playing under 500. That's crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah.
Now they all have to play each other, so that's where that being under 500 comes from a little bit. But but they're not. Miami's just they're doing great, and Duke's doing great. Notre Dame is doing okay, but then everybody else is just sort of halfway there.
Wake is playing well.
Yeah, they are. Yep.
Good morning. How's everybody doing this morning?
Well,
Started a little later, but everybody seemed to be in a real social. I think we have a lot of announcements, so it's kind of fun. I think Ron Mitchell has our invitation. Is that right?
Heavenly gracious Father, thank you for this gathering of Rotarians and guests. Thank you for the good work of Rotary. We pray for your guidance, pray for wisdom and discernment, and especially we ask that you would bestow that upon our world leaders, especially under the circumstances. Pray that you would guide our paths. We ask and lift up those who are suffering and facing challenges, that you would give them comfort and peace. We ask that you would bless the food and the hands prepared for us, that we might use it to do your will. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And right before we test, all the things we think, say, and do.
Is the truth, is fair to all concerned, it will be beneficial to all concerned.
Okay. Go ahead and have our. Trying to wait for you to get through the buffet lines.
We got 25 members here on Zoom today. We got a lot of guests, actually. We got John Van Kemp, we got the guy Bondo, we got Robert Stoner, a guest of Mark Reynolds, Carol Ann Witchy, also a guest of Guy Bondo. Of course, our speaker today is Bryan McMillan.
Welcome. Welcome. And I'll have to say that the John Van Kemp relationship with guys is the longest courtship. The record of Gate City Rotary.
So John is actually applied to the club now.
I had no idea. I met the wonderful talent young man named Chris Neal. He explained to me, the guy has came for my breakfast, so I wanted to imagine. I found out he was dead. Oh my gosh, I better fly.
Don't worry, he'll pass it through your middle bill.
Anyway, it's an honor to join this information for the Chris Neal. I gave him some great information yesterday. Sounds like I gave him all of it. I think I would include this verse. Love that.
Sit down, John. Carol is my next guest here. She's one of our neighbors. She's a lifetime Rotarian, moved from the West Coast, and is looking for a new home for Rotary. So she's been in Sea Greensboro, but this is by far the better place.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Mark?
Everybody, this is Robert Stoner, and is currently a resident of the Listed area, where he's director of orthodontics at Walter Reed. And but I'm convincing him to move this way and come join Reynolds Orthodontics. So he's also my new associate. And he's here half-time as he finishes up some obligations to the country until July.
Welcome.
Okay, we have just a few birthdays today. Dennis Marcotte's birthday is Saturday. Dennis says he plays golf on Thursday mornings, but I doubt he's playing golf this morning. And Carol Lander, who is a member of the Evening Sunset Group. Her birthday is Monday. She's been celebrating for months. I'm sure. One announcement, there is a birthday card that Rick Martin bought for Chris Jackson.
Get well.
Yeah, get well card. So if you haven't signed it and would like to, it'll be up here on the table. And do we have any happy dollars?
Happy dollars.
I have happy dollars.
Oh, Fiji.
fresh money?
Yes. Two happy dollars. The first happy dollar is to remind you a couple of dates. You have some sheets on your table. There is the district conference coming up in Myrtle Beach. And then, of course, we have our party for purpose coming up in this year's day. So please, save the date on your calendar. Talk to your family, your spouse, your kids, whoever. Make sure they have the date on their calendar because we want as many members as possible to join us for these two events. My second happy dollar is a big shout out to Judge Hassel for his performance in Porgy and Bess. I did not know.
It was a great performance.
Thank you so much. And I've given a couple of happy dollars on the ramp up. It really was an extraordinary opportunity and marvel just to experience and be a part of it in my non-singing role. And I think I got my lines right. So it was great to be back on stage again. Great to be in Tanger Center. What a wonderful thing. My actual happy dollar, however, is, as many of you know, I've been involved with the Downtown Greenway since its formulation when we were on the Bicentennial Commission back in 2008. We brought Dabney Sanders and some other program people here over the years. We've continued to meet as an oversight steering committee with officials from the city and from our foundations and stakeholders in the community every other month, pretty much for over the last decade. And as of this month, we were pleased we could meet, of course, remotely. As of last Friday, that our new finance chair is none other than our very own Vision G. So great to see her smiling face, and she'll be continuing to do great things for Greensboro, even though when she claims to be retired. So.
Dabney's going. Right, Dabney?
Yes.
Gail. Okay, I've got two. One for Rosa. She is landed safely in Florence, Italy, and has adjusted quickly. She's having a great time. And the other is for Victoria. She said, finally, Rosa is somewhere where she cannot come home.
Yeah, so I got a couple here. First off, my little boy Wilder was grown up, moved to Atlanta, took a job in forestry finance, put together, he didn't do it by himself, it was a team of 8, and he's a peon. He's also the guy that had to do all the calculations and everything. Bought, financed, and sold $770 million worth of timber and oil land. And he got to go on his first building trip. He said, damn, those Texans can drink. Not quite as good as the kids from NC State. The other thing is Enduring Gratitude. It's February the 12th. We've got about 140 veterans. We need somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 more. They're coming out again. It's a pheasant shoot and sporting plays, breakfast. We've got a keynote speaker, Porter Halliburton, who's in the Handle of Hilton for 7 years, excellent speaker. As our keynote, we've got a couple other important people. We still need a little bit of money. Budget's about 63,000, and we're up to around 50. It's 3 weeks out, so hopefully we'll get there. But thank everybody in the club that has helped. We really appreciate it. Hopefully we'll hear something from the past presidents, Tom, or Guy, on that grant. But we do need a few more volunteers. We have mostly trapper jobs outside. It's going to be cold, but you'll meet every veteran that comes through there if you do that job. And we could use a couple more people to help inside. So with food, cleanup, and that kind of thing. But anyway, thank you all for your participation. A lot of Gate City Rotarians have volunteered. It is probably one of the best days you'll ever have. Come out and join us. Thank you.
All right. That's 5 Venmo happy dollars. I was down in South Florida where I'm from. Pete and I went down for the weekend, and long weekend, and it just made me thank God that I lived here in North Carolina. It was a wonderful place to grow up with. Anyway, it wasn't much warmer. The other part is a big thank you to those in this room and some online and others who are assisting with this fundraising effort. I've been pretty tremulous about it, and the support has been amazing. So thank you all. All right, we're gonna have a vote.
More. Dr. Guy.
This isn't really a happy dollar, it's an announcement, but I know you would go, let me talk about it. Anyway, so, Bobby's part of the past president's committee, Walt's part of it, and Chip is. Tom's leading it. So Tom had the goal of setting us up for a meeting. We have the right number of applicants to give everybody money. So if you put in an application, I'm pretty sure everybody's going to get something. It's just figuring out how we designate and delegate the money, right? So we have a set budget. Tom got COVID last week. He sent out an email or whatever, right? So we're waiting for him to recover. Do we have any word from Tom?
Tom?
Oh, there you go. So Tom, you doing well?
You have the floor.
Yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah, luckily my bout with COVID was pretty minor. You know, and I'm sort of feeling back to normal. I'm just sort of sitting through this quarantine that the people told me to, you know, don't go anywhere for 10 days. So that's what I'm doing. And that 10 days is up like Monday. So starting next week, I'm back to normal. And I was just sitting here putting together an email to all you guys on the past president's committee to see if you wanted to get together in a virtual meeting tomorrow or Friday, or if you wanted to wait till next week. You know, I don't want to wait too much longer. So anyway, I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking. I owe everybody a happy dollar. I'll do a Venmo thing for that. So thank you.
So it sounds like we'll have it resolved and we'll have funds being dispersed from the club within the next couple of weeks. So there you go. There's your answer.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much. Thank you.
I have suggested we meet in person because I don't like to drink virtually.
Oh, let me throw one more. I don't
You
have,
gave
I'll
me
have to
10.
think about it. We had 16 people at Dram and Draft last night. 3 clubs represented. A good time was had by all. A bunch of us ended up going out to dinner afterwards. We had 8 people at Salvino's for dinner. Another group spun off and went to 1618 Midtown. And you know, it's hard to get a reservation when you don't call till 7:15. But we had a great time. As nice as 505 we've had in a while. Dram and Draft was a great place. Thank you, Danielle, for setting it up.
We keep hearing from these other club members that always come to our 505s about how wonderful Gate City Rotary is.
Can I make an announcement about an upcoming one?
You
Do I have to
have
give a dollar?
You have a dollar?
I'll bet
Chip,
you money.
you can piggyback on Chip's 10.
February 16th, we're gonna do another wine tasting at Rioja. So it was like $25. You got some cheese and some food, and we tasted 6 wines. So the last time was New World wines. This one will be Old World wines. So I'm gonna send out an RSVP just so Jake knows how many people are coming, and he can have the number of glasses available on the tables. So February 16th.
So
Thank you.
I got $1.50. A couple, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I offered to take Dr. Walt Snell flying. So we get in and I update the GPS and we go through all the checklists. We crank it up. We're taxiing now. One of the things you do is going out is check your flaps. So you put them down 1 notch, and they come down. You put them all the way down, fine, and then pull the switch up, and they come back up and stuff down. Anyway, long story short, the supply chain, little bitty circuit board about that big. Pay how much it cost. I had to find one somewhere in the world. My God, they had to take everything apart. Have you ever seen an airplane taken apart? You wouldn't want to get it. This thing was behind the instrument panel. I had to take everything out. Anyhow, I got a great mechanic, and he put it back together, and I test flew it with the mechanic. You can always tell how good a job it is. He said, yeah, I'm willing to go on the test ride. So while we're back in operation. Matter of fact, I'm flying several hours today, but I'll give you a holler.
You don't die, that's probably.
The grandfather said there are no fat people in the world, just some people are easier to see.
Any other announcements? Okay, this time I'll invite Danielle up to introduce our speaker.
All right, good morning, everyone. So I'm excited to have our speaker with us today. Bryan McMillan is the founder of Pen and Dagger Consulting, He owns a business that helps organizations differentiate themselves in competitive markets through the power of writing. He's a former lecturer in the English department at UNCG where he taught. And a fun fact about him is he enjoys driving his wife crazy by ordering way more garden seeds each year than any reasonable human would ever need, which speaks to my heart. I love that, Brian.
I know. Brian and I, when, I don't know if you guys remember, I was part of the Action Greensboro's launch program a couple months ago, and Brian and I were actually accountability partners. So that's how I met him. He's a wonderful man, and I'm so excited that you get to learn a little bit more about ways he helps local businesses.
I'll hit this up.
Tom, he mentioned in his email about sort of a college years trauma about writing, being in a class and got marked an F for like one tiny little comma out of place. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that speaks to my heart. I'm a writer. I love writing. So.
Good job on your slide about.
Yeah.
So the reality is, words are everywhere. We engage with the written word every single day of our lives in an innumerable number of ways. And so that's just a fact. I don't think we really need to belabor that point. But there's a problem. Big elephant in the room. People have forgotten how to write. I don't know if you've noticed that with employees, younger generations, and I'm not sure what the problem is or why that is the case. I know that we can conjecture, maybe it's because we are like in a texting culture. Nobody wants to pick up the phone anymore, especially younger generations. They just want to write with their thumbs. And so that kind of requires a sort of shorthand. And I think part of that is contributing to the anxiety that we see a lot of times around writing. When I was teaching 18, 19, 20-year-olds writing, every time they came in, hey, you've got a 4-page paper, you've got a month to do it, just sheer panic. And it's just insane to me. So I don't know if it's the texting thing. I don't know if it's the education system. I know when you send out that email about your college experience, for me, and I remember in 6th grade English class, the only thing I remember about writing was feeling panicked about where to put a comma. And I think that is a huge part of this as well. So I've got a little example here. I want you to think about this for a second and decide what's wrong with the first email. You have attachment issues. Please fix it. Sorry for the confusion. I meant file attachment. So I'll let you speak if you want. What do you think is wrong with the first one?
Fix it as opposed to issues. Fix them.
What's that?
Fix them. Please fix them. You have issues. Plural. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the sentence "you have attachment issues" can have a whole lot of meaning.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're like, I know we're all going like, oh, the grammar thing, right? But the real issue, the core issue, the reason that this person is panicking right now is because of a lack of clarity. And that's really what we're getting at. When we're talking about good writing, it's all about effective communication. Point blank. That's what good writing is. So sometimes your audience may not respond well to really good grammar, right? It does happen. And so poor grammar in that circumstance, in that particular, what we would call a rhetorical situation, is actually an effective way of communicating. So by reframing what good writing is, we can start maybe thinking about ways of resolving this issue, especially with like employees who struggle communicating. Like, hey, I need you to email this prospect. Please, don't ruin that relationship, right? So here is something in rhetorical. What we're going to talk about is rhetorical theory. This is something that I teach or taught when I taught freshman writing. It's completely different from the way that I was taught growing up. And this is the standard now in academia. It's hopefully trickling down into the high schools and middle schools. But this, being mindful of the 4 elements I'm about to talk about, can instantly improve your writing. Instantly. So here we go. So these are the things we need to be mindful of as we communicate in written form. And really, this goes for any kind of communication, verbal communication, you name it, body language, it all applies. So the first thing you have to be aware of, you need to be mindful of, is something called the rhetor. That's the communicator. So right now I'm communicating to you, that would be me. At the same time, you're communicating to me with your body language. So that also applies to you. But if I'm writing, say, an email or whatever, I need to think, how do I want to be perceived in this moment? And how can I write in a way that supports that particular image? And sometimes I get pushback about that. But, well, I don't care. You know, that's the mentality. A lot of people will say this. And that's, you know, that's good. That's probably healthy. But what do you want to get out of that correspondence at the end of the day? So you should care. Because at the end of the day, you want to get your audience to come to your side. Yeah. The biggest thing that gets ignored, though, is the audience. When I've worked with writers, and I've read like just tons of student writing, and even today, as I work with clients and coaching and doing copywriting for them, this is the biggest issue I see, is ignoring their audience. So, for example, if take a communicator who highly values making decisions based on what's right. So it's a value-based decision-making process. This is the right thing to do, therefore we ought to do it. But their audience, they're decision makers that want to make a decision based on the bottom line, what makes sense. So if I go and communicate with that audience that we ought to make such and such decision based on the fact that it's the right thing to do, it's not going to land. So communicating with your audience based on the way that they prefer to be communicated with is critical. The third thing, the text. It's in quotes because the text can be anything. It could be verbal communication, written communication, you name it. And so it's really critical for us to think about what are the expectations of a given mode of communication. So you're not going to want to write a 2-page email. At the same time, on your website, you're not going to want a 300-word banner at the top. It's just not going to land with your audience. So you need to like appeal to those conventions in any given mode of writing. Sometimes undermining convention can be exciting though, and can get your audience's attention. And the last thing is context, because that influences how we say what we need to be sensitive to a global pandemic, for example. It's changed the way a lot of people have made purchasing decisions. And so as a copywriter, that's something that I think about as I write for companies, right? Advertising for companies. But you could also think on the micro level, what's your office culture like? What kind of conflicts are occurring in your office? You think about as you communicate. And that's it. That is the rhetorical triangle. So having these things in mind, being mindful as you write, and not just saying what you want to say, can transform your written communication. Because it's really not about grammar at the end of the day. We saw that example. The person was panicking because of lack of clarity. And there you go. So again, good writing is all about effective communication. Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, question? Sure.
I've got a question for you. As an educator for many years, you know, I always heard people decry the state of writing and grammar and all that. But I also think back to the days when the Phoenicians were starting trade and the alphabet or what the mode of communication was Egyptian with millions, thousands of characters, very complicated. And the Phoenicians developed a phonetic script for business trade, and it was very short and brief to the point. And I often think, God, those scribes must have been really pissed off and indignant about the state of things. And what are your thoughts about that? Because I see us going not backwards at all, but actually into a more concise and digitalized form of communication. Do you think that, you know, do you see that as a future, or do you think that somehow we'll always maintain this beautiful, what we perceive to be a very beautiful mode of communication?
Well, I mean, if you look at, say, Old English, like real Old English, Anglo-Saxon, if I were to read it to you right now, no one would know what in the world I'm saying. So language evolves. That's just natural. So I don't think it's a right and wrong. I think it's what we're accustomed to as a culture. And so when we see the changes, say in the younger generations, a lot of the abbreviated ways of speaking, it can be difficult. Yeah, I think that's okay.
Are we not understanding them? I mean, you give examples up there. Are they understanding each other? And is it,
If they are, I mean, that's fine, yeah.
So I'm a math head, but I write okay, I'm not a great writer. I learned from Microsoft Word. It was all grammar the whole way through.
or what, the little guy with the pencil, are you sure that's saying this way?
That's why I don't fuss up grammar. I mean, there are apps that will correct your grammar.
Have you heard about the new release where it's gonna actually stop you from not just grammatically, it's gonna tell you that the graph.
Oh, really?
It's gonna suppress your, I swear that's true.
Well,
Yeah, I'm not kidding, the new release word.
I did have a question.
Yeah, Grammarly, yeah.
I had a question.
Yeah.
How do you feel Word does at correcting grammar? Is it effective?
These days I use Google Docs, but my experience with Word in the past it's been fine. Grammarly I like, and I do use Grammarly. I actually have it live on my computer, but I have to correct it sometimes because it wants to overuse hyphens. When there's a compound adjective but not followed by a noun, yeah, you don't need a hyphen, but Grammarly wants to do it, yes.
I would love to hear, I mean, pretty diverse group of business people here.
Yeah.
How could your company help us? What do you guys do?
I do a number of things. I do content writing, which is a kind of writing that helps build brand awareness. So it's not about, this is the kind of writing that's not about getting a quick sale. It's long term. So you might do a new 1,000-word piece every single week of the year, and then it builds brand awareness. So I would be the person behind the scenes writing that kind of thing. I also do copywriting. So if you do want to do like email ad campaigns, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I have a 20-year-old NC State student.
Yeah.
She's always, I've noticed, loved to write over the years. And so as a freshman, she was given the opportunity to work at Platform Magazine, which is
cool.
NC State magazine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was able to write and get published, and actually she got the opportunity to now be like co-director or editor.
Yeah.
And so then she applied for an internship with our state magazine. And that was interesting because she's not taken a journalism class at all. And there were two girls chosen, her and a girl from Harvard who was a senior major in journalism.
Yeah.
So to watch her, and I've watched her write her essays, and they helped her in many ways to accomplish and attain scholarships and whatnot, right? But to watch her get this internship at our state magazine and watch them actually, her get so frustrated because she thought she was a good writer, right? They actually taught her, she'd come back and say, I don't know what's wrong with my article. Anyway, it was refreshing to see that growth in her ability to write. I don't know what she'll do with it. She wanders in different things on what she might do, but she always does come back to writing. She just gave up her Wine 101 class. She's studying right now for a journal class. They'll travel and she'll get to write. But it's inspiring because we do hear, being older, about how the art of writing is fading. But I don't know. I don't think so. From my perspective, watching her learn and grow and then be taught through that our state program was very hard. And she was very frustrated because she had 2 articles in the last 2 issues.
That's really cool.
So
yeah,
it was refreshing.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Yeah, what I saw, I would get like, I'd see somewhere around 100 students a year, and I maybe have 1 or 2. It's so your daughter's probably a diamond in the rough, at least from this is anecdotal experience, but it was a struggle. Some people think it's really sad.
It is odd. It serves her well, I think, because of that.
Yeah.
It's just not, yeah.
We talked about our college experience. When I think back to my classes I took in rhetorical theory and speech writing and, different fundamentals of oral communication, the types of classes and courses that I use every day ever since in the intervening 34 years. But my wife, who has been a senior lecturer at UNCG for over 30 years, long ago stopped requiring term papers for her business students.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the quality of writing. That said, there's a layer and level and ethic of communication that works just fine for their contemporaries who they're doing at the college level. And so these are educated folks and beyond. And, you know, you use the meme of the office, that there's a level of communication, whether it's texting and single letters within words,
Yeah.
that becomes sort of an idiom of a culture. And how do you incorporate that, knowing that not only do we need to let that generation be able to articulate grammatically and speak things when they say, oh, I don't have to know how to do that if my software is not taking care of it for me. But at the same time, we need to be attuned so we don't miss those references that are part of that communicated message.
Exactly. It's about staying relevant and being aware of what's actually going on in the culture as it changes. Because it's going to change. Language evolves. I mean, 500 years, English is not very different. Well, you know,
Well, I was just going to say, if you could talk a little bit, or if you have an opinion on email editor in terms of length, and, you know, so for example, I heard a person speak on effective communication on PT or PowerPoint, and one 6 slides, and one 6 words per slide, and so on. And so you can almost use that PowerPoint to do your elevator. Can you speak to that? What your opinion is on emails?
Depends on the circumstance in your audience, but I would always say never let. Well, my wife, she works for Alton. It's an engineering firm. She does business development. So she works with engineers and designers that design cars. And engineers can be boom, 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 bullet points, and it's great. And that I think is effective. But some of the designers are a little more artsy. They will, and they're, by the way, across the hall from her, they'll write a 2-page, 3-page email. And she's not going to read it. She won't. She'll just walk over to their office. So it shows if you're not following, it goes back to what is the text, what is the mode of communication, what are the conventions of that particular mode of communication. Sometimes it's really important to follow those conventions. In this case, I keep emails short. I like to do bullets. If I have like 3 main points, I'm not going to get 3 paragraphs. It's going to be 3 bullets. It has to be longer. I would just have conversations. I don't know who's going
to. My wife and I have a pet peeve, and we hear it every day. Newscasters, prominent business people, and they'll say, "Where you're at." And it's become. We're like, what? Who taught these people? I mean,
language
is
evolves.
that going to become accepted? That's ridiculous.
It's like who and whom. Whom is archaic sounding to a lot of even younger academics. They don't use it. But same with any sentence with preposition.
How do you, maybe you consult, I mean, you are a consultant, but how do you cut, I work with a diverse group of folks that are highly educated and not. And I work with a lot of attorneys, but we don't practice law. And so they forget that they're not practicing law in their email communications. So how do you coach someone that you, like one of your peers, that we don't need all the legal jargon in your emails without being offensive? Have you ever been
I've ghostwritten for a second, so I've never coached.
Well, we ghostwrite a lot. We
Yeah.
do a lot of that in our office.
Yeah.
And we have a communications team that our best writers, we run things through them if it's going out in a blast. But not to, I mean, I love my attorneys, but they get very carried away. And email communication.
No, honestly, it depends on the personality and the relationship you have with that person. If I were coaching them, I try to develop a relationship with them, so I can be honest about. When I work with other writers, it's okay. Let's work out some problems. I want to see the text. I want to see what they're doing and actually market it. And it's scary, and they may not like it, but.
I'm assuming that you
brand content for websites?
I do write branded content. That's awesome. There was, I think you had your hand up a while ago.
I'm one of those old codgers that feels like language has really gone to pot in the last couple of decades, especially. And I want to know about your feelings on correlation between how much children read versus how well they're able to write. It seems to me that we have a generation now that's going through school, and I'm talking grade school, middle school, that pretty much hasn't read that much in pain itself. Instead, they're doing something with their thumbs, and which is great if we're going to be a society that runs drones and things like that. But if we're going to be a society that communicates, it seems to me that having a reading or a background in reading and the written word is much more important. What are your feelings about the correlation between reading?
Yeah, I think reading is the single most effective thing you can do to educate yourself, hands down. I mean, across the board. So I think there's a huge correlation with how much a person reads, especially as a child, and their ability to communicate. My daughter, for example, she's 6 years old, and I'm a lit person, so she's been exposed to books, and she's got 1,000 books, not literally, and she reads constantly. And she was able to communicate effectively early, and people were always surprised with how well she communicated. And I attribute that to the fact that she read so much.
And it follows forward to how well they'll do in school.
Right. I mean, school's easy for her. And she's good at math. And I think part of this is it's about comprehension. So reading and learning how to comprehend what you're reading, it translates to other things. So even learning how to do math problems. I think it's critical. I think it's a problem in the education system. If it were me, reading would be the core.
Isn't that it in a nutshell? I'm from Canada.
Yeah.
And I think we're like the top 5 in reading and writing because it's mandated at 3 and 4 years old. Here where we're no child left behind, trying to generalize education. You don't invest in the body, knows what I mean. So build the foundation, and the rest of it itself. I've been a teacher here, I'm a part-time teacher at high school as well. Reading and writing school. I think the United States ranks what, 25th, 26th in the world. And yet we have more money per person. Kids. Reading, writing, 25, 26, science, engineering, math, there's something wrong. I think it's the lack of investment in wrong.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Well, the irony of that comment is, you ever talk to anybody from England, they speak, have you ever heard of expression Queen's English?
Yeah.
Folks from other countries speak English the way we are supposed to, because they was taught grammatical. They was right from the go.
That's great.
No. 8.
A couple things. One, you had an IE in your opening slide there.
Yeah.
And is IE followed by comma? I hate to correct your thing on that. I thought, well, Rick, you're probably wrong about that. But no. So no comma is needed after I.E. Okay. I asked that for John. The other thing.
Older, tough crowd.
That's what I love. I had read that we have a compounding learning effect when we're listening to somebody before we write it at the same time. But it appeared that you almost have to do longhand in order to keep up with what you're hearing, keep up with what you're hearing, and put that down on paper. But I see today that printing is about what goes on, and you can't print quite that fast. And is there a loss today because it's just so much on the keyboard, and as I said, there's not a translation. You take the keyboard notes, but the brain doesn't link it together like it does if you write it for some reason.
No, that's the research showed that.
Yeah.
I always keep a handwritten journal, and I write in cursive, so fortunately I was taught cursive. But I might not even go back to the notes. In fact, 80% of the time, I don't go back to my notes ever. but it's for retention purposes. So if I'm at an event like this, I'll take notes, and it's not verbatim notes or anything like that, but the symbols, whatever, but my hands on the paper. Yeah. It translates to your brain, and it helps with memory.
So it doesn't have to be a person written out anything
You're physically translating what's being said in the pages. These are symbols. I use comics.
Yeah. And I see that also a couple of years ago, I was looking part of teaching too. And this wasn't the shorthand that I couldn't understand the text, and I could get that and already right. Yeah, that stuff. But when you see it written out, it just doesn't make sense. That you can kind of see what you're trying to say, but gracious, you know. And one last thing, I saw a study done where kids in senior high school, instead of being taught English or writing 4 papers and you can do one at the end of the year kind of thing, these kids were taught logic. And and they hear fact, and therefore. And it's not I feel like this, I think, sir. No, that doesn't count. You want to convey the message. Fact, and you do it therefore. These kids were taught just basic logic all year long, didn't write a single paper. At the end of the year, they had the same test as the others. They outscored everybody because they were logical and concise versus footnotes.
Well, it shows you the thing that won the day wasn't grammar, wasn't that stuff we were taught.
Yeah.
It was being able to organize your thoughts.
Yeah.
That's more important. That's what's clear communication.
So we should teach logic in English along.
Oh, I did. I know when I taught writing, we went through logical fallacies and we dug into that. We couldn't spend a whole semester on it. It's not a course of logic, but I always thought that was important.
Well, one last thing, my kids are a little different because I speak English as a second language.
Yeah.
So I had to learn it when I was 18 years old. And I feel very strongly that, you mentioned earlier that 500 years from now, the English we speak is very different from what we're speaking today. I think we need to address that a lot sooner than 500 years. I do believe that we need to look at language and simplify language. And if we do that, I think that will allow people to speak more than one language. And we're being more globally conscious. And I always question the word commit. There's 2 M's, 2 T's, 2 E's. Is there a reason for that? Let's make it simpler and then it will be more accessible to everyone. So I'm in favor of change and quick change when it comes to not just English, all language.
There's no fighting. It will change. Languages evolve. That's just the nature of it.
Did you send that out in an email?
It's gonna.
I think that's good.
Once you've spoken our language for at least 10 years, we'll be ready to hear.
I think one Gate City that you could brand us, write all our content, emails. We're looking for someone next year on the board to write all the emails, right? We have one last thing for you to do, and that is to pick a number out of your raffle.
You could win $1 million.
You should read it.
All right. There's no name on it, so I have a number. Last 4, 5079.
Dr. Guy, between Guy and myself, we funded this.
Third my money already.
You get it?
Nope.
Still alive.
There's only like 9 cards left, y'all, so.
Bring a guest next week. We have special guests that Scott Baker with Town Bank will be giving us a market economic update. So bring your friends and join us next week.
Thanks.